Hey Reject Nation, Greg Alba here.
And I'm John.
Rosa Para from Patreon, our Lady Stark of the channel, has requested this special video from WatchMojo.com. A list video that's bound to upset many of people.
Listicle.
Top 10 Marvel Cinematic Universe movies published after Infinity War, so expect to see that on this list. Anyway, WatchMojo, let's see if we agree with your list. Thor: The Dark World better be number 1.
Oh yeah, and the Incredible Hulk.
John, please, it's easily number 3.
What a decade it's been.
Bean.
Welcome to WatchMojo.com, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 MCU movies.
Thor's really become a man.
Before we begin, we publish new content every day, so be sure to subscribe to our
blonde
channel and ring the bell to get
everywhere.
notified about the latest videos. For this list, we're looking back at 10 years worth of Marvel Cinematic Universe movies and deciding which 10 are our favorites.
Okay.
Number 10, Doctor Strange.
Okay.
I pushed your astral form out of your physical form.
What's in that tea?
The Marvel Cinematic Universe is no stranger to fantasy, but the first cinematic appearance of the Master of the Mystic Arts kicked things up a notch or two. When brilliant neurosurgeon Dr. Stephen Strange has his hands mangled in a brutal car wreck, his search for a treatment leads him down a pretty unexpected path, one that ends with him as Earth's newest magical protector. With psychedelic visuals and epic fight scenes that combine spellcasting and martial arts, this is definitely one of the most visually dazzling entries in the MCU. And that's saying something. Thankfully,
yes,
you
it
don't
is.
need the Eye of Agamotto to turn back time and watch it again.
Dormammu,
No.
I come to bargain.
Number 9, Thor Ragnarok.
Kneel
It's pretty high up here on this.
It's bold.
Number 9.
before your queen.
Let's be honest, the first few entries of Thor weren't the most exciting films the MCU had to offer, but the third installment changed that in a big way. Combining director Taika Waititi's trademark humor with a futuristic aesthetic
Such a
inspired by the art
calm
of Jack Kirby,
narration.
the film is an absolute blast from the start to finish. In addition to familiar faces like Thor, Loki, and Heimdall, the film also introduces a whole whack of new characters to
And
the
Odin.
MCU. And we'd be excited to see any of them return for more movies. Come on, Marvel, give us that Korg spin-off. You know you want to.
Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Korg. I'm kind of like the leader in here. I'm made of rocks, as you can see, but don't let that intimidate you.
Number 8, Avengers Infinity War.
Too high for fans. Or low, I mean. That's gonna upset
Infinity War is
people.
by
I
far
can
Marvel
feel it
Studios'
already.
most ambitious project to
Yeah.
date, bringing together practically all of its major characters for an epic confrontation with the Mad Titan himself, Thanos. Once again, Joe and Anthony Russo pull off a giant crossover event that feels like a comic book come to life, but it's Josh Brolin's Thanos that simply steals the show. There's more to Thanos than meets the eye, and while seeing this enormous cast of characters come together is something fans have been eagerly waiting for, they couldn't possibly have anticipated what Infinity War ultimately delivers. Number 7, Spider-Man Homecoming. For years, Marvel fans have wanted to see
if a
the friendly
team
neighborhood
thought of this
Spider-Man
list.
finally join the MCU to appear alongside the other Marvel heroes, and our prayers were finally answered in a big way. After appearing in Captain America: Civil War, the Webhead swung into his first solo MCU adventure, and the result was everything we wanted.
We're gonna cut
and
to
more.
footage of Iron Man.
Neighborhood Spider-Man.
He got paid
For
$10 million
starters, we
for
got a
that movie.
fantastic new Spidey and Tom Holland, to say nothing of the incredible supporting cast. And really, who would have ever thought that the Vulture would turn out to be a great and memorable villain? The Vulture! We wouldn't have called that one.
I'll kill you dead. That's what I'll do to protect my
Oh
family.
man, Marvel fans are so upset with this list. I can feel it. Feel
Number
it.
6, Black Panther.
You get to decide.
A lot of recent Marvel in the back half of this list.
Another newcomer to the MCU
I
who
put
had
this
his
in my
debut in
top
Civil
5.
War, the King of
Yeah, I
Wakanda's
would too.
first cinematic solo outing quickly became one of the most beloved and successful comic book movies ever, not just in the MCU. And when you watch it, it's not hard to see why. Ryan Coogler's film is a brilliant and visually breathtaking offering that perfectly balances superhero action with powerful and relevant themes. And that's not even getting into Michael B. Jordan's performance as Killmonger, a villain who people are already calling one of the best in the history of the MCU.
I waited my entire life for this.
He's
We
my
have just
personal
2 words for
favorite.
you: Wakanda Forever.
Wakanda forever.
Number 5, Guardians of the Galaxy.
That's in my top 5.
Another name you might know me by. Star-Lord.
Who?
Star-Lord, man. Legendary outlaw.
When Marvel announced that this practically unknown superhero team, which includes a talking raccoon and his buddy, the Sentient Tree, were getting their own movie, we thought they'd finally gone off the deep end. But imagine our surprise when the end product wasn't just a fantastic movie, but one of the most fun, engaging MCU films to date.
It's a fake laugh. It's real.
The film
I love this movie so much.
Space rock opera
Love it.
and one of the most emotionally engaging comic book movies ever made. And that's on top of introducing characters who've since skyrocketed in popularity, going from little known to household names almost
Damn,
instantly.
Bautista got even buffer.
Yeah, right.
I'm gonna keep an eye on him. You? Yeah. Me.
Number 4, Captain America: The Winter Soldier.
It's a damn good
Part
one.
superhero
It's
epic,
a damn
part
good
top
one.
spy thriller, Captain America's second adventure came out of the gate running. Literally.
Say left. Come on!
When Cap uncovers a Hydra-orchestrated conspiracy within the ranks of S.H.I.E.L.D., he and the Black Widow go rogue to stop the sinister Hydra before they can unleash a fleet of helicarriers on an unsuspecting public.
I know many
Things only
people
get
who
more
say this is their
complicated
number
when
one.
Cap learns the true identity of the Winter Soldier,
Whoa.
Hydra's top assassin. While it's common for middle films in a trilogy to be the weakest in the series, the second Captain America film breaks that trend in a gloriously badass fashion.
Is it known to be the weakest? I feel like the third one's known
Number
to be the
3,
weakest.
Iron Man.
Diminishing return.
The one, the only, the movie that started it all. The first film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe is still one of the very best.
That's great.
The film came out of nowhere and took the world by storm.
He's
with
gotta
its
bring that
action,
hair back.
charm, and world building, taking a relatively unknown hero and turning him into one of the most recognizable characters in pop culture.
Let's face it, this is not the worst thing you've caught me doing.
Of course, none of this would have been possible without Robert Downey Jr., stepping into the boots of a role that reignited his career and the ever-reliable
He only got
Jon
paid
Favreau behind the camera.
$500,000
In
to
the
do
years
this
since,
movie.
MCU films have gotten bigger, but very rarely better.
I am Iron Man.
Number 2, The Avengers.
What have I to fear? The Avengers. That's what we call ourselves.
When Samuel L. Jackson made a surprise appearance at the end of Iron Man, the countdown officially began to a film that comic book fans had been dreaming of for decades. Over the next several years, Marvel carefully set the stage for the biggest superhero epic the world had ever
Yeah,
seen.
that's an
And when
amazing
finally hit
movie.
screens, it surpassed even our wildest expectations.
Oh yeah.
Marvel could have buckled under the pressure of bringing together Captain America, Iron Man, Thor, the Hulk, and numerous other characters from their extensive roster of heroes. But instead, they made comic book movie history with a film that remains one of their absolute best.
What's their number one gonna be? Civil
Before
War?
we reveal our top
Ant-Man.
picks, here are a
Number
few
one.
honorable mentions.
What are you doing
I feel like it's gonna be Civil War.
I'm a
Probably.
big fan. Appreciate it. So who the hell are you?
If it's not been by now.
How do you feel?
Honorable mentions.
All the other eight,
Oh, yeah.
9 films.
You look taller.
I like it.
Avengers Age of Ultron's gonna be it.
Number 1,
Yep.
Captain America, Civil War.
I'm trying to keep you from tearing the Avengers apart. You did that when you signed.
You want to know the one thing harder than making a great middle film in a trilogy? Making the third film the absolute best of them all. Captain America's third adventure sees the Avengers torn apart when legislation is introduced that would place them under direct
I
UN
can understand
control.
this being
And the
number
question
one
over
on
what to
someone's
do with
list.
The enigmatic Winter Soldier only makes it worse. There's no other film we can think
Never
of that
look at that
better
scene the
balances
same.
superhero action, serious themes, and good
weird when it's
emotional
you.
drama. To say that Marvel hit this one out of the park is an understatement.
He's my friend. So was I.
Do you agree with our picks? Check out these other great clips from Watch Mojo and subscribe for new videos every day.
Yeah. I mean, I would have put Age of Ultron at number 3, Incredible Hulk at number 2,
Dark World, easily number 4.
Dark World. Oh no, whoa,
One?
number
We still
one.
going number
I am
one?
not yes-anding
Sorry.
that whatsoever.
Iron Man
you are
2
wrong.
is number 4.
Dude. Yes.
Yes.
And normally when we react to these list videos, we'll talk about each individual film and our thoughts on it. This is a list that's just doomed to upset people.
Because no one's going to have the same list.
No one's gonna have the same list for a franchise that is the Marvel Cinematic Universe, an entire studio that's dedicated to one franchise that has franchises when it's one massive franchise. It's like impossible to make a list that will ultimately satisfy. But there are numbers here where I'm like, oh, you're definitely gonna get crap for putting them at like number 8.
Yeah.
Infinity War at 8.
See,
that skyrocketed to the top 5 for many a people. And after watching it a third time, I would definitely say it's in my top 5.
It functions on 2 levels. I feel like for a lot of people, it'll probably resemble your top 10, but the order will probably be wildly different.
Exactly.
And on the one hand, like, I kind of get what they're going for because, you know, I mean, just in the timeline of life, put a lot of the more recent films at the back half because they haven't had the benefit of time so much. Infinity War's only been out for 2 weeks, so I understand why they might not have put it way high up.
Sure.
But at the same time, you bring up a really good point, which is like it's already distinguished itself as one of their most distinct, gutsy movies.
And this is a film that we're still talking about, and people are going to be theorizing and coming up with analysis on it till the next one comes out. The next Avengers movie, you know?
Yeah, and then there's the other part of this is like where all these films fit together and the idea that like certain of them you have to have seen before some of the other ones will even make sense.
Yeah, they needed like a disclaimer as to why they were putting that at number 8. I mean, I think they were honing in on the fact that it's Thanos' movie. That sounded like what this really calm gentleman was trying to do.
And your friend is just describing.
So weird to see a loose video for an MCU thing and to have like just this really calm voice. It is the most exciting film in the MCU. They really knocked it out of the park.
Maybe that was an intentional choice to keep people's nerd rage down.
Yeah, I agree with your point that this is arguably the 10 films you would most likely hear about. There's some where I'm like, I mean, for my personal taste, I get these lists are subjective. Yeah. That's why I was saying during it, like, I'm like, I did this one guy because sometimes these channels do that, where they'll have one dude just put this video together and just his opinions on it. And it's not a team of people working on this list. When I'm thinking, this is a video that requires a team of people to really come together and ultimately determine. Because this seems like a very personal, subjective list to me. It doesn't seem like they really did like a whole teamwork. Doctor Strange at number 10 actually makes a lot of sense to me because it's not the best told movie, but they had good points about it being one of the most visually bold films they've done weirdest ones they've done. It's kind of a risk to do that with the movies that were, especially at this point where there was a pretty well-known formula and this movie follows that formula essentially. I don't disagree with that. Thor Ragnarok, I could even kind of see that because it's so much of a whimsical comedy.
Yeah, it's so much fun, and there are people who weren't excited about that direction for Thor, and even so, I mean, it does kind of feed directly into Infinity War, but it is, just a lighter adventure. I feel like on a lot of these lists, the lighter films are reserved for the later spots.
Yeah. Spider-Man Homecoming, I honestly would have put at number 9 or 8. You know, like, I really love Tom Holland in that movie, and I think there's a lot of fun to be had in that film. I've seen it like 2 or 3 times at this point. The last time I watched them, I realized I love Tom Holland, I love Spider-Man, but I don't really love the film as a whole. That's just my personal opinion. Okay. This video, just even talking about this video is bound to get you in trouble. Black Panther, I'm like, that should be in the top 5. Some people might call it overhyped, whatever. In my personal opinion, that is one of the best standalone Marvel films, easily.
And I mean, it's one of the ones that has the most on its mind. It's one of the ones that has, you know, a very culturally relevant edge on it too. Like Civil War does as well, in a totally different way, but, you know, they bothered to breach and discuss bigger things than just, you know, the villain or whatever.
These are the 10 films that would be on my list. There's no doubt about that. These are the 10 MCU films that would be there.
I feel like you leave like maybe a small margin of error for wild cards, because, you know, somebody's favorite has got to be Ant-Man out there somewhere, you know.
Civil War is not my favorite one. My top 5 would have to be Avengers 1, Iron Man, Black Panther, Civil War, Infinity War. And my top 5, I didn't specify them in a specific order. I'd have to think about that. I'm just telling you what my top 5 would be. You know? I'll get crap for like not putting Winter Soldier in the top 5. I know I would. Winter Soldier is just such a serious movie to me, you know?
Yeah.
And while some people love that, for my personal taste, I'm like, I like a little bit of the fun tone, you know?
Well, and Civil War broke ground in terms of like, it's still, at least to me, it was still a Captain America movie, even though you had so many other characters, and it took on the format of what we're doing at all. It had the superhero discussion that BVS didn't. you know, which was what are the legalities and the rules? What are the ethics of this? That's enough caliber for me to put that pretty high on the list. In that regard, I can see maybe parts of this. It's like, like a Spider-Man or a Ragnarok would end up lower on the list, or even a Doctor Strange, if not in my top 5, would be like number 6 or something. I might even rank Guardians lower than they have it here in favor of bumping up like Infinity War or something like that.
Guardians.
The first Guardians is pretty
This list is impossible.
See,
because I totally forgot about that, because when I heard that, I'm like, no, that should be my 5. But what would I bump?
Like, there's a no-win scenario when you're ranking Marvel movies, especially when,
there's so many.
Now that there are almost 20, there will be 20 when Ant-Man 2 comes out, and like at that point, it's like, you're gonna just have to leave some stuff out the list that you love, and you're gonna have to rank some things places you don't want to rank.
Because Guardians 1 is perfect to me. I would probably knock out Iron Man for Guardians.
And then it also comes into the ideas of where you're drawing the list from. I can understand you going, but Iron Man started it all. It's like, at first I was a little surprised that the first Avengers was higher up than Infinity War, but then I was like, well, there is no Infinity War if we don't get the first Avengers, and the first Avengers, you know, even if they've done crazier things since then, it's still such a moment, you know, the context is
And it's
huge.
also a complete movie. It's not a cliffhanger of an ending. It also has a heroic vibe and triumph to it, the spirit of it.
There are less things about that movie that are justified by like, well, there's so many characters, it has to be like that. You know, whereas like I feel like Infinity War, even if that's not a bad thing, it does have that.
Avengers, the first one you could watch without having to watch the other. Like Infinity War greatly depends on a strong following of all the MCU films,
or at least a 5 or 6 to catch you up.
Because I've met people that haven't been following all them who were like, I don't know what's going on in Infinity War. Like they were people were just like really confused.
Well, and the effective stakes would be so much lower. Because you've just not spent the time.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas the first Avengers, there are people who could watch that and understand what's going on.
Totally.
This is an impossible list to satisfy. I just wish this guy had a little bit more enthusiasm. Whoever's narrating this.
Convince me that Infinity War belongs at number 7 or 8 or whatever that you did.
Where's the voice of passion in this guy?
Do you love? Maybe that's it. Maybe they couldn't agree on anything, so they're like, well, you seem like the most neutral person in the room. You do the list.
Well, guys, how would you rank your top 10 favorite Marvel films? Put it down below in the comment boxes. Would love to see what that is. You guys can subscribe to the Reject Nation. Click that notification bell to get notified every time one of our videos is up. And make sure to download the Vikings War of Clans app today, people.
Yeah, 200 extra gold.
Absolutely. Link in the description box. We know other YouTubers who have partnered up with this app as well. There's a reason why. Do it.